Our last presenter is Amber Ward. Amber's from the States and is going to actually get down to my level of technology, which is she's going to talk about gadgets and gizmos. I understand that language. Gadgets and gizmos for the ALS client, thinking outside the box. Amber.
Well, you realize I'm the only one standing between you and lunch, so I'll try to be brief. My name is Amber Ward. I'm an occupational therapist in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It is not full of data and statistics. It is simply about great ideas that I myself, my teammates, my caregivers, my patients have come up with that we wanted to be able to share today with you. So the background, I have quite a bit of experience in a multidisciplinary clinic, as does the rest of my team, and that is very necessary to be able to provide these ideas because there's not a lot of literature, especially on inventive ideas, especially on occupational and physical therapy, speech therapy with these sorts of devices. And our patients progress. They change continuously. So you'll come up with a great idea that lasts for a month, and then you have to come up with another great idea. And this is a continual process, and nobody has the time and the money to be able to manage these problems and buy lots of fancy pieces of equipment. So the cost and the budget constraints are very much a part of this. So the objectives for today is just to provide some education on some existing and new equipment that you may or may not know about, to talk about some creative problem solving, low or no cost alternatives, which is always my favorite, and custom modifications that both our patients, caregivers, and ourselves have come up with. A little tough moving here. So some of the existing and the new equipment. One of my favorites is a mobile arm support. And the mobile arm support can attach onto a table or onto a wheelchair. And this one particular one on the left picture elevates with rubber bands. And so it takes away some of the shoulder flexion, allows the arm to lift, and then there's a pivot point at the elbow that allows it to bend toward your face for self-feeding, to be able to move across the page when you're trying to turn a book or access a computer, to be able to reach your mouth to brush your teeth and do some grooming, and it really works quite nicely. The picture on the right is of a newer design called the Rex, which has rubber bands for shoulder flexion and for elbow flexion. And so it gives you even more support. So someone with a very weak arm can still be able to feed themselves and still be able to do a lot of these types of technology. The picture on the bottom is something called the Mattress Genie. This is a genius idea. It's an air bladder and a pump, basically. It goes between the mattress and the box springs. You press go on the pump and it fills up with air and it pushes the head of the mattress up about 30 degrees. It's genius because it keeps people out of hospital beds much, much longer. It keeps them staying with their spouses. If somebody has a king-size bed, you can put two twins on top of that, and so one person is elevating with the Mattress Genie and the other person is staying flat, and so that works really nicely for a lot of our caregivers and patients. We found a funny little drink holder made by Fisher-Price, which is a children's toy maker. And you can see the sippy cup here in this picture, but where it fits very nicely is onto the thigh guide of the wheelchair. And so it's a great place to put a drink and a cell phone or some keys, something like that, and it's very, very accessible, easy to remove, just as the thigh guide on the wheelchair is easy to remove. The inspection mirror is used typically for folks with spinal cord injuries who need to see their skin on their bottom, but I came up with it to use as a rear view mirror for the wheelchair. And so you attach it with Velcro or with a few screws, that sort of thing, to the armrest of the wheelchair, and you have a nice rear view mirror for not very much money. There are a number of stylus options, as the other presenters alluded to, and I really like this one by R.J. Cooper. R.J. has a website that is filled with inventions, and so this is just a really nice one that allows you to hold that stylus without having any hand function. And the wireless doorbell is a really nice option. For about 12 to 15 American dollars, you can get a doorbell that has that nice bing-bong sort of, but it's a nice alerting system. And you can see in the picture on the left, we put that doorbell into a piece of foam, just spare packing foam, and put a little switch, a little bit of foam on top of it with some adhesive to make the button easier to press. So now you've got a switch that's embedded and is very easy for the person's hand to sit on top of it, and then they can press that device when they need it. There's also another wireless switched alerting device option that we've come up with, and I just want to play this quickly for you. It's very simple. We have a black electrical tape on top of it, otherwise it would make your eardrums bleed. So if you've got clients whose carers are hard of hearing, perhaps are in a different part of the household or like to be outside, this device is very, very loud and without the electrical tape on it, and we can give you information about that as we go. So creative problem solving, definitely thinking outside the box. You have to be able to come up with things that are useful to that particular person, and they are not like any other person that you might see. They barely need their own individual things. If you have tools on hand, if you have Velcro, if you have splinting material, if you have pieces of foam that you've commandeered out of boxes in the hallway, if you've got things that you can use, they're really, really helpful. Having loaners and demonstration models, I think, really help inspire ideas and inspire that creativity in the caregivers and in the patients. They can see what's out there for, $100 or $200, and then they can create something on their own that might be much less expensive. One of my favorite options is called the toe troller, and this was actually developed by a gentleman who has no use of his arms, but he has very strong legs, and his little tiny TV remote could not be pressed with his large big toe, and he was very frustrated about not having control over the TV. So we made a little splint out of about 5 cents worth of plastic and a little bit of Velcro, put it on his toe, put the remote control up on a stand, and now he can control his TV and his DVD and all the other things for about 5 cents worth of plastic. It was a great, great idea. The stylus options, there are some that are commercially available, and we've got some samples up here we can show you later. But we created our own out of an Allen wrench and some Coban that is just an adhesive tape that you can attach the stylus to it. And then there's a gold lame fabric. It's just a fabric that conducts electricity. So we've actually put this piece of fabric around the end of anything you want and attach it on with some Coban. As long as the person's hand is in contact with this fabric, it can be used on the iPad, it can be used on any other device that has a stylus, and it's very, very inexpensive, so that you can use whatever type of device happens to suit that particular person. I really enjoy using the sort of satiny sort of fabrics because a lot of our patients need to be able to get on and off the wheelchair cushions, and the fabric on the cushions sometimes sucks them into the cushion. They just can't get off of them very easily. And so the satin fabric works very nicely on that, on headrests. Some of the headrest materials tend to catch their hair a little bit, so that works really nicely. And then the bed sheets, of course. If you're trapped in your covers, a lot of times those satin sheets can help, and they're pretty inexpensive. I really enjoy these one-way valve straws. If you or someone else can slurp the liquid up to the top, it stays at the top. So that if you have low lip ability to be able to suck through a straw, a lot of times this can allow you to just pull that last half an inch, and it's enough to be able to get some liquid. And there's a couple different options here that I'm showing you, and a couple different lengths and some that are bendable, that sort of thing. 3M makes really nice adhesive dots and tacky strips. The adhesive dots are in that picture on the left. They're little clear dots, and they can attach onto a TV remote, onto wheelchair buttons, anything that you need to be able to press a little more easily because, of course, the longer the lever arm, the less force required, so you can use that to help yourself. The tacky strips are, in the U.S., it's known as Dysum, but in other countries, there's some tackiness that has adhesive on the back. You can wrap it around spoons and forks, a screwdriver, whatever you need to be able to use to be able to get a better hold on the item. The electric razor strap is, again, about 5 cents worth of Velcro. There's a strap around the razor and a strap around your hand, and they're interlocked. That's all. You can put anything in there that you want, from a toothbrush to a hairbrush, and then, of course, the razor is a really nice idea. The fishing line zipper pull is, everybody understands, and most occupational therapists know that you can put almost anything in the hole of the zipper to be able to grab onto it. But the fishing line is really nice because it's clear, generally, and it's very difficult to see, and it's a little bit more subtle for people that are still working, that sort of thing. The suspenders idea I have a model here that we took these pictures of. Basically, you sit on the toilet or you're sitting on your bed and you want to pull your pants up. And a lot of our patients have extreme difficulty reaching behind them and pulling up their pants. So if they don't mind the look of the suspenders, you can sit on the toilet, you lean forward, and either use a dressing stick or your arms to get it up over your shoulders. And then as you stand up, the suspenders are pulling the pants up for you. You need to kind of wiggle and shimmy a little bit, but it definitely works for most clients. And it is a very, very inexpensive and nice idea to try. And of course, the rainbow suspenders are a particularly nice fashion look. Some custom modifications for electronic devices. Again, Velcro is my best friend. The iPhone holder is simply a strap of Velcro around the leg, some Velcro on the back of the phone, and attach it to the leg. You can attach it to your wrist. You can attach it to the wheelchair arm, anywhere you need to keep that phone a little more stable. You can do the same thing with the iPad, and we actually have an iPad holder up here in the chair if anybody wants to see it later that has a strap around the person's thigh that keeps the iPad a little more stable. The flat laser pointers are really nice for communication boards where you might have something mounted to a wall that they just need to do a yes/no or something simple as a letter board. But the difficulty is accessing them. How do you hold on to them and how do you keep them turned on? Because you generally have to hold the button to have it turned on. So we mounted it to a headband with some Coban, and we used a little clip that you might hold papers together to hold the button on. And so it's lightweight, easy to use. The person can move their head and use the laser pointer as they need. Adaptive clothing is a pretty common thing that occupational therapists are recommending, but a lot of people may not have seen the buttless pants. And they actually work quite nicely. When you're standing, that flap of fabric is covering your tush. When you are sitting on the toilet or wherever else, the flap of fabric is behind you, and effectively your bottom is open so that you can toilet more easily. So it just involves not having to pull up and down the pants, trying to deal with the patient lifter, how do you get the person on and off the toilet and manage their clothing. Another option is that middle picture with snaps or Velcro along the side of the pants. Because if you can leave your pants in the chair, then use your patient lifter to get over the toilet, then come back to the chair and then just flip the pants right back up and snap them or Velcro them along the side, you've taken that problem out from a lot of people. And everybody knows that for women especially, toileting is one of our biggest problems. And then Velcro, of course, is great for being able to manage buttons and that sort of thing. The foam that we picked up for somebody's ear and elbow was really bothering them. They had caregivers for part of the night, but they really were in one position for quite a long time. And so their ear on the pillow was getting a lot of pressure. So what we found is that if you just cut away a little bit of space so that the ear can actually come through the foam a little bit, or the elbow can come through the foam and provide some space, a lot of times that works much better, and then you just kind of embed that into the pillow itself. The clear letter board, a lot of people use for communication device, but as a large clear letter board, it's very unwieldy, it's difficult to transport, it's difficult to take with you to places. And so one of our caregivers cut the clear letter board, just slipped it horizontally along the rows, and then used clear packing tape to put it back together. So now they have a folding clear letter board. It opens up quite nicely. Still able to use it as you would any other letter board, but it is much, much smaller. Clients and caregivers provide some of our best ideas. The bed rails that might help you be able to roll or get up out of bed generally run even $100 or $200 US, but if you can make one out of PVC pipe, which is basically plumbing materials, for very, very inexpensively, you can make a nice sturdy bed rail that allows you to pull up, to roll over. You can even make one for both sides of the bed fairly easily. The dressing stick is one of the common tools that occupational therapists use, and you can see in the picture on the right that the person is using it to get their pants on. It's a nice option when you cannot use a reacher, and then this patient put loops on it to make it easier to hold on to. This gentleman on the bottom cannot hold his head up, and so he and his friends created a backpack out of kind of firm plastic and created a head loop, a backpack loop, and a waist loop, and now he can hike as he wants to. Client interventions include drink holders, and there's a number of different options. We've taken some drink holders that are not supposed to be for the wheelchair and attached them onto the headrest, onto the base of the chair, that sort of thing. The wheelchair drawers, this gentleman decided he had way too much empty space underneath his chair, And so he put drawers on. I don't know, you cannot tell from the picture, but the drawers contain things like a measuring tape and tools, pliers, all sorts of things that someone in a wheelchair might need at any given moment. The bathroom adaptations, this gentleman made the bedside commode taller by putting a little bit of a platform underneath, and then when he was standing, his ankles would turn over. So this family created a little box for his legs to be able to keep the ankles from turning and the feet from moving. We've got some tube feeding holders created mostly for people who cannot lift the tube up to let gravity help drip the feed. And so they put the on a dowel rod. And so they walk the dowel rod down, they dump the food in, they walk the dowel rod up so it's up above their head, and they're never having to lift it with their shoulders. I thought it was a tremendously creative idea. They did the same thing with this little platform that holds, and you just sit and stand for that sort of thing. A clamshell hair clip with a piece of ribbon can hold that feeding tube from dragging. A lot of times, especially when they're new, they hang longer than the shirt or the pants. Almost done. I hear you tapping. Wheelchair hooks are great. You can use carabiner hooks and other sorts of hooks to be able to attach on the wheelchair. We've attached BiPAPs, ventilators, all sorts of things onto the back of wheelchairs. And then this gentleman on the bottom needed to be able to access computer with some wireless switches. And so he created a little platform that went off the bottom of his footrests, and so now he uses his toes for his wireless switches. So our conclusions: stay up to date, know what's out there, come to these sorts of conferences, talk to people, get on blogs, get on listservs to be able to know what's out there. Encourage your clients' creativity. Let them know that things are possible. They can create something that means something to them and that works for them. Communicate with other therapists around the world at things like this, and hopefully at the poster presentations we'll all have a chance to talk. Have trash and tools in your clinic. The clinic staff just despairs at what a mess my room is because I'm constantly grabbing pieces of foam and other things from the trash, and then think outside the box. So this is one of my favorite quotes: to invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk.
Thank you, Amber. Any questions, please? One in the middle here.
I should say that probably if you're looking for prices and websites and information like that, probably the easiest is to contact us via email, and which is why I left our email up here. Yes?
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you, by the way. That was awesome. And as an OT myself, I find it difficult sometimes to connect with those OTs around the world. Do you know of any listservs or anything, that you use in particular to connect with the other therapists?
There's a great assistive technology listserv, but not specifically for occupational therapy. I think we should develop something. I think that's a great idea. Can be able to connect people that work with folks with ALS, MND around the world. We'll see if we can come up with something. Be able to present next time.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amber.